The budget deal just passing a hurdle in the Senate today, and that is the one that only cuts $23 billion in spending over 10 years. That's like ice cream money or something, soda money. Former Reagan budget director David Stockman says this is a terrible idea and one that will hurt Republicans who agree to this mess. You think so, really?
Well, I mean, it's a pure Beltway con job. They're busting the caps, adding $65 billion to the deficit this year and next year, the same money they saved in 2011 when they made a last-minute deal.
Yeah.
Then they're going to pretend to recover that money in 2022 and 2023, so far down the road that it's not just kicking the can down the road, but into low Earth orbit, as far as I'm concerned.
You are absolutely right, but nothing that you said is surprising. I mean, this is how Washington works. They just spend like drunken sailors. Is there anyone in there that's really committed to getting this problem under control?
Well, but they're in a lot of different factions. I think there are some liberals that would like to cut defense, but the price of getting their domestic program money restored, the sequester lifted, was to give all the Republican hawks another $22 billion for defense that we don't need. So you now have basically a symbiotic process where the hawks are getting their defense money, the liberals are getting their domestic money,
right.
The taxpayer is left out in the cold, and the next generation is going to carry the debt.
Is in real trouble. You know, of course, the thought behind this, you say that this is politically bad for Republicans, but a lot of Republicans, I think, are that it's politically good because they get the focus back on this healthcare failure. Is that not true?
Well, they can focus on the healthcare failure. I'm a huge critic of Obamacare. I think it's the greatest public policy disaster of the last 40 years. But that doesn't mean that we have indefinite time to let this deficit and national debt fester, because when they locked in 2 years worth of agreed upon high spending, busted the caps, they really said, we're not going to address the issue till 2017. These caps last through October 2015. You're in the presidential election. Both parties have open primaries, no incumbent. Now, do you really think that we can last till 2017 and then maybe impact the budget?
But what's the opposite? I mean, what's the alternative? A shutdown makes Republicans look bad, and at the end of the day, it doesn't get anything done. Just ask Ted Cruz.
No, they have to fight for what they believe in. And the House Republicans did not need to serve up a complete bust of the caps. That was a case where Boehner and Ryan capitulated. They should have said, we're sticking with the sequester. We solemnly agreed to it 2 years ago. That was the price for increasing the debt ceiling. Every Republican said that at the time. Now, when we get down to the lick log, so to speak, they basically capitulate again, surrender again.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm pessimistic about the future is that both parties are playing the Keynesian game of adding to the national debt.
That terrifies me as well. I mean, as an economist, the entire thing is bad. What scares me, though, is that there is no solution in the short term without a dramatic reversal. I don't know who has the political gumption for that. And at the same time, I feel like what we're leaving to my children and grandchildren is immoral.
I agree with that. And therefore, Republican incumbents who took the easy way out, who surrendered, ought to pay the price in the primaries. I really advocate
they should, but
challenges.
Americans,
right?
I don't think Americans see that fine point. I think they understand that we're wildly overspending, but then after that, it is so frustrating that it just becomes noise. So the difference between this deal and a deal they could have gotten, and I mean, all of it is just noise.
Because they're not telling the public the truth. Why are they telling the public we can't live with $600 billion of defense spending with the full sequester? That's what it was. You know, before Bush had his wars of occupation and invasion, defense spending was $400 billion in 2000 in today's dollars. 50% more. They can't live with it. We've had no new industrial state enemies. We've been fired as policemen of the world. Why can't the Republicans give up the ghost? The Cold War ended 25 years ago. Crack down on the Pentagon and call the bluff of the Democrats. Instead,
do you think that's a real solution? And then what would Republicans get back in turn? I mean, could we get to a point where we're really making a difference in this tremendous overspending? You think we could?
Yeah, they could have easily called the Democrats bluff. That sequester is law. They could have said, we're sticking with the sequester. We're not going to bust the caps for $65 billion. And if you want to shut down the government
But it seems like then Democrats say, great, we'll take that from you. you, and we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So you lose what you had, and then they don't cut spending on their side, or they raise taxes on their side.
No, I agree with that part, but on the sequester, it was all more spending, domestic and defense.
Yeah.
Why did the Republicans capitulate, surrender on the sequester? They did it so they could get $22 billion more a year defense spending, and the price was the Democrats got $22 billion more of domestic spending we don't need, spending that is actually 50% higher after the sequester than when Bill Clinton left office, and he wasn't starving, you know, child care and education and all the rest of it.
Maybe they were just tired and couldn't do the math anymore and gave up. They needed you. They needed you in there. David Stockman, thank you so much.
Thank you.